Hope you're ready. It's time for Decentralize Now.
Thanks again, and welcome to Decentralize Now. And we actually just got off a recording. It was the first time as a podcast and another podcast. We were on the Blackballed podcast and had a great time. He's actually live streaming right now. So the podcast you're about to listen to is actually our appearance on their show, and I had a blast. I thought it was a good time.
It was a lot of fun, man. He's an interesting guy. I definitely like to have him on our show, and if he'd like to have us back on his again, dude, I'm down to do that anytime.
So, however you're listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or Breaker or SoundCloud, because you're a fucking moron, it could be in the description how to get to his podcast. We're definitely going to share it on our Decentralize Now page on Facebook. So definitely go check him out. He's got a voice for podcasts. Like, I have this high, screechy voice. He's got this low, kind of sultry voice. It's a good podcast, and be sure to follow him, like, subscribe. And while you're doing that, maybe you can keep the favor and like ours as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this podcast. We had a great time, and we thought it was a good discussion.
Absolutely. So you guys enjoyed this recording of us on the Blackball podcast, and we will see you with content next week.
We are about to go live. Yes, we are live. Or I guess we're not live. We're recording. My name is Pierce.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough, exactly. My name is Pierce, and you were listening to episode 20-something of the audio-exclusive Blackballed podcast. Today, I am here with Chemtrail Commando and Busted from, is it Decentralize Now?
Yes, sir.
Decentralize Now, like democracy now, but we're kind of insulting that every time we release a podcast. It was Decentralize Now.
That's amazing. We were just talking about how people hate us for our views and try to get us. That's the weird thing. The story you just told me. Somebody tried to get you fired, not from like your job, but from your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I'll kind of let Busted tell the rest of the story, but essentially, I put a post up on my social media, my personal page, and someone found it, and it goes to show the strategy that these like Antifa types will use. So she went to my personal page, and on my personal page it says works at Decentralize Now. So she thinks, oh, that's where he works. I'm gonna get him. So she goes to our Facebook page for the podcast, and then sends Busted a message trying to get me fired. So
it's great too, like screenshots and everything.
Oh my god!
Like, this is what he's up to. Like, this is what's going on under your nose. You need to be aware.
as if you'd have no idea.
Working. Yeah, exactly. You have a horrible. I know how horrible Chemtrail is. Like, you don't. Like, you have this horrible person. You just wanted to make you aware, and basically what I responded with was, well, hey, first of all, this is a podcast, and we're all about speech. Mm-hmm. Second of all, that horrible person you're talking about runs the fucking podcast with me. So you can take that complaint, shove it up your ass. It was kind of in a nutshell.
It was funny. Go ahead.
I was going to say the best thing about it, though, was like she got all upset about it, and she screenshot our conversation, me telling her to like basically go fuck herself. She screenshotted that and then posted it to our wall. What's great about that is I was doing the exact same thing at the same time.
Like a war trophy.
Yeah. She was like, I'm going to show everybody this. I'm like, I'm already showing it to them. This is why people come here. Kidding?
Exactly. It's funny when they think that they've won. I mean, you're posting it on your page, which assumingly has the people that like you the most on there.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so dumb, man. Go ahead. What's up?
Two things on that. Like, the first was that it was so funny because she got the exact opposite that she was expecting to get.
Right.
But it showed you their logic, like their strategy of these people. They troll, they scan Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media it is, and if someone links their job to their Facebook, that's exactly what they're going to do. Hey, I saw this particular post. It was made by this person. I just want to let you know because it might turn off some customers. So it allowed us. I mean, yeah, it was comical because she had no way of that actually working, but it allowed us to, in a very real way, understand this thought process of people trying to economically harm not only individuals but entire families because of expressing political opinions on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're at, and it's kind of fucked up.
That's actually something I want to get into in a second, or something I just saw about Virginia on top of everything else that's going on. But real quick, that reminds me of a story that I had. So I started the live streams out on my personal Facebook. I didn't have a public page yet. I didn't think to do it. And quickly I learned that I probably should, because and I do share them still, but I think it was 6 ladies in. They don't even deserve the title of ladies, but they were 6 girls, and they all in about a week and a half's time publicly unfriended me and let people know why. And every one of them, it was a clique of 4 of them that I actually went to a Christian college with. And they were the alti circle, the left leaning circle, the female liberation bullshit, and they all would post on the post that they didn't like, and this is where I unfriend, just every time. And the last one was an ex of mine. Right? The last one was the leader of their little cult, hosting a backwards house for they were awful people. But she was an ex of mine. We at one point were pretty sexually active, and she was crazy. I mean, this is an Italian chick, and the left-leaning chicks seem to always be the ones that put out the most. I mean, at one point, dude, I have to just preface this. This is by no means a brag. She was, fuck me in the ass, call me a slut, call me every time. And it's to where I was like, Jesus, can we just talk,
Can we just play Yahtzee?
Right, exactly.
At work. I just want to play Monopoly with you.
I just want to know about you and your feelings. I don't want to keep. Why am I a piece of meat to you? And so she was aggressive, right? And she was very, very degrading. She wanted that. She liked that whole talk shit about me while we're having sex thing. And she commented on a post I made about, what was it? the gay mayor of some place in Colorado wanting to and legalizing women being topless from ages 11 and up. So my post about this was, so it's pedophilia. It's not adult women. It's not only that, but then you're exposing kids and adults to nudity that no one asked for, and no one voted for this. This is the bullshit part of America, right?
It's an attempt to normalize it. They're just trying to normalize it.
Exactly. And ironically enough, it did, because I post this so pedophilia. Your idea of progress is very, very pedophilic. And she commented, this is where I unfriend. And I was like, okay, look, so our whole relationship was centered around you being a piece of shit. You wanted me to call you that, me abusing you, and I was a piece of shit back then too, dude. All I did was fuck around on girls and cheat on them. Now that I'm wanting to find a housewife, wanting to find a traditional woman of value that I uplift and venerate and make sure understands that they're loved and cared for and provided for, they hate me, which is so weird, right? 2 years ago, you were into me calling you everything in the book and treating you like shit. You thought that was amazing. Now that I'm hey, I don't want my future kids to see adults naked, you're like, no, that's too far. You are a misogynist. You hate women. It's okay. I can't win with you. So I really pissed her off in the comments. I said, I don't want anybody. I said, no liberal chicks allowed. Only traditional God-fearing conservative women allowed on my profile. But it's a weird thing. They have to publicly let you know that they don't like you. And Antifa's even worse, man. I just got some information.
Fucking cowards.
Dude, they
cowards.
I just got some information that there was a big event for the Proud Boys, and the dumbasses posted pics of it, and somebody had Antifa in their friend group, and now Twitter's exploding with trying to dox at least 10 of them.
Damn.
It's unreal, dude. And they do go after your house, they go after your family, everything, man.
Well, look what happened to I might keep mispronouncing his name, but I think it was Andy No, or the reporter up there in the Northwest. They went not to his house, they went to his family's house on Halloween, wearing masks of their grandson or some shit like that. Just some creepy shit.
Not only that, dude.
And they get away with it. You don't see a whole lot of outrage except from people on kind of woke right circles, if that's even a phrase.
Yeah, but
it's really fucked up what's going on for sure.
What's crazy is the whole shtick behind this is that we hate women, we hate gays, we hate minorities. That's what they always say. However, they are the ones that have physically and emotionally assaulted families, and including Andy himself, a gay Vietnamese, a gay minority, has been assaulted by a pretty much all white radicalized group. And it's not the KKK, it's the fucking libtards that are called Antifa, which is unreal to me. No one sees the irony. No one at all.
They can't.
Go ahead.
I just think they can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. I mean, it's the pot calling the kettle black. You know what I mean? They do the exact same shit, but they'll fucking chastise the other side for doing it while they're doing it themselves to people they're mad at about whatever's happened. No, it's ironic, and it's hard to watch.
Well, one thing about the left is that, and they operate off of this book by Alinsky called Rules for Radicals, and it's like, rule number one is, other groups play by the rules. Rule number two is we write the rules. Rule number three is we don't have to obey the rules. You know what I mean? Whatever they have to do to win, and it works. Like if you look over time, Jesus Christ, our country's changed so much since the 1950s.
Yep.
It's a very short period of time, and they have completely changed our society, our mentality, our way of thinking in a very short period of time. So while it's unfortunate, it works. What they're doing is working, and they just care about winning. And that's something that I see on the right. I see us complaining a lot. I see us playing the defensive. And if I can make this point really quickly, what we saw in Richmond was a lot, and I loved what happened in Richmond. I thought it was great, but we saw a lot of people saying you can't do this. It's trying to negate a position by the left, and I didn't really see a unified vision of what life should be like. You know what I mean? It's just sort of negating, what they can do. So we need to start playing by some of their rules, I think.
That's exactly my point, dude. I went on this big tirade last live stream, which will probably cost me in the future, but I basically, a lot of my friends and a lot of different groups, Three Pers, Patriot Front, Proud Boys, you name it, they all went to Virginia. They all went to the rally. And yeah, I get it. That's something that people want to fight for. Obviously, it's a little too late. But the ultimate thing that bothered me about this, and we may differ on this, but this is my opinion, that they set up a certain area where you could not have a gun and go in, which was near, I think it was the Capitol, right?
That's right.
And people obeyed it. So the irony there is you've got apparently hundreds of thousands of people protesting gun laws, yet all following gun laws at the protest against gun laws.
That's fair enough.
I want to be clear, just like I was on the live stream, at least hopefully, that I am purely speaking from a maybe, let's say, a rhetorical perspective or just a thought-provoking idea. I don't call for this. I'm just saying that if you happen to feel that your rights have been taken away tyrannically by a government, and you decide to go against the government, much like the Revolutionary War, much like the Civil War, if you are on the opposing side of the government, you will be labeled a terrorist.
Absolutely.
I'm not calling for terrorist actions. I'm simply saying that you revolting against those laws will make you one. And that if you keep choosing to just go to protest and cook hot dogs with your commando suit on, no pun intended, chemtrail, then you will have nothing benefited from that. You will only prove the point that, like what you said, they have a set of rules they give you that they don't abide by, but that they hold over you to the point of arresting people like Tusi Talatausi of the Proud Boys, to arresting two men that defended themselves against Antifa in New York. I mean, you've got tons of evidence now that the government is clearly biased towards either globalism or George Soros, Antifa, Globo Homo, whatever you want to call it, and not towards the people that make up this country. So next time, I would say if there's 100,000 plus people with guns, revolt if you want anything to change. Now, again, not advocating for it. I'm simply saying you could have done it and nobody could have stopped you.
So you're saying basically that you're a little upset so there weren't some shots fired.
I'm upset because to be honest with you, it's either acceleration or it's nothing at this point. And for the reason that you brought up, which was if they don't follow their own rules but you do, there's no trophy for these boomers that wear MAGA hats that don't punch people. There's no trophy for the gun owners that follow the laws. I'm saying they do
Boomer uprising.
Exactly, and that's all I want. I just want to see 60-year-olds in the front of the line taking Pediasure and shooting you with an AK. That's all I want.
It's true.
Oh shit!
And another thing that I think that weakens the right is that the left is very monolithic. Like, they're all on the same page, they're all on the same team. I think on the right it's a lot harder because we're the movement or the. And I'm talking in very general terms, obviously, but we're about exclusion, if you will. This is good, this is bad. We have standards, so it's harder for a libertarian and a conservative evangelical and a neocon and to all these other nationalists to all unite under the same banner. So there's a lot of infighting as well. So again, for that reason, it's very difficult. And around 2015 to 2016, I felt like we made a lot of progress culturally. And there was that meme of "Don't punch right" that was very common, and we lost that. We lost that. We started tearing ourselves to pieces, and then everything fell to shit because of that. We need to regain that focus. We need to fight fire with fire for sure.
I'd like to talk about something. I'm working on a new video, so I just released a video about a week and a half ago of a trial run of me doing like video commentary, kind of like Paul Joseph Watson style, examining videos. My next one's ironically called "It's Okay to Punch Right," and I want to just bring this up and maybe we can have a discussion about it. So sure. my reasoning on that is kind of trying to, I'd say, adequately follow my acceleration argument, which is so really the neocons and the progressive left are the same people. One's just sweeter about it. It's like a good cop, bad cop thing, in my opinion. One saying, hey, if you vote for me, I will uphold your constitutional rights. I will protect your liberties and freedoms. Fuck the libtards. You're like, hell yeah. Dan Crenshaw's got an eye patch and he likes me. He fought in wars. I'm going to support him. And then he goes, well, you can have free speech unless it involves Israel. And then you're like, okay, wait, hold up. So you support Israel, not America, at least not primarily. And you've got this happening all about. You got the Turning Point people, Charlie Kirk just being a shill for other countries' investments and money. And obviously, it is hard because you're right. It is hard on our side, to be in unison because we do have morals, we do have like codes of conduct, and in these little subgroups a part of the right. I'd like to suggest that we completely stop supporting neocons as much as we don't support Antifa or the progressive left. Now, I personally am more of a, the paleocon, where I'm very, very traditionalist. I'm very, very ultra-nationalist. I don't want the stuff that the neocons push for. So essentially, neocons, in my opinion, they flow with the culture that is now the conservative point in 2020, where the paleocons are still sticking to the conservatism before the New Deal. So I want that. I don't want the new wave of conservative movement to be like, no, we are pro-LGBT. We are not racist. Like, dude, everyone that has a brain understands that I don't sit in my house every day thinking, I can't wait to hurt a black or a gay. Like, everyone knows that. So stop trying to sway with the culture and popularize the red hat and popularize the idea of fiscal conservatism. In a way, I think that if we abolished the neocons, if we stood away from them, didn't vote for them, and we rose up and said, no, we're not going to vote for interests that are not ours. We're going to stick with our group, our small group, which is steady growing, in my opinion. The quote unquote groypers of Nick Fuentes or the old dogs like Jared Taylor or stuff like that. These people are bringing about a spirit of, I think, revival in that field. Because I do think we have to punch right. I think that those people need to go, and that they need to know that we don't like them, and that they'll lose votes if their interests are foreign. But that's my opinion.
Well, let me kind of push this back, I guess. So, I mean, obviously, you're very intelligent, you're very educated, and people who, if you're reading Jared Taylor, if you know who Jared Taylor is, you've probably done a little bit of research at this point. So we're talking about people who are very educated, might be able to split those hairs. When you're talking about the masses, when you're talking about massive amounts of people, I don't think you're dealing with people who might be able to identify who is a libertarian, who is a conservative, who is a nationalist. So I think from a larger perspective, we have a little bit to lose to eat our own. I think that movement of, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, at least right now, I would love to be in a situation where like the main debate is, hey, are we a George Bush neoconservative versus a sort of Herbert Hoover-esque libertarian or something like that.
Right.
But we're just not in that right now. And I don't while these debates certainly need to be had, I think on a massive scale, when you're looking at the culture, the don't punch right meme, if I could be blunt, is very effective for large amounts of stupid people who you need their votes for. So in terms of propaganda, I guess I see it has some kind of value because they're not going to be able to gain access to that kind of information to understand even what a neocon is or what's going on.
That's a very good perspective, and that makes a lot of sense because I did see some of the stupidest people, quote unquote, on our side at the Virginia rally. There's this one old ass dude who pushes Jovi Val. Do you guys know who that is?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I'll show you him later. I guess we probably shouldn't talk about him, but he's a oh my god, I think he's South American, I believe, but he's like Turkish. I don't know, either way. He's up there being confronted by news organizations as to why on YouTube he has supported National Socialism and all this stuff. And this one fucking 70-year-old dude comes up and he goes, "You're a leftist. You're a leftist because Hitler was left leaning." It's like, dude, really? Are you serious? And these guys believe the whole thing that they hear Candace Owens say once that Hitler was left leaning and that Democrats were the real slave owners and the Republicans were always non-racist. And they believe that. They do believe that. So you're right. I think that there is something to be said for not punching right for an amount of time. I want to see. I'm trying to think to myself because if you look at, I guess maybe the uprising of the, how did you phrase it? The more knowledgeable or quote woke right side.
Sure, woke right, yeah.
Which, by the way, every time I say that, I lose 10 years off my life. I hate that word, but. If you see the growing movement of them, it is actually the younger audience, right?
Absolutely.
And you have people like PewDiePie, who wears an iron cross with a hoodie and rejects donations to the ADL. And then for 2 days, like these Gen Z become like completely based through the comment feeds and through Reddit forums. And then you've got people like Nick Fuentes, and this the younger movement is really, I think, where our based right is going to be, our considerably far-right movement is going to be. So I don't think that if we lost the boomers, it'd be too big of an issue, except for when it comes to voting for a president, because ultimately they will be gone soon. And I think that I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not time yet, but at a certain point, we got to stop trying to cater to old people in voting, because they're not going to learn. They're not going to find out.
That's true.
All the hypocrisy that they've been told every year. It's even my dad. I was talking to him. I was telling him about how the immediate argument of people like Crenshaw for you to discredit the idea of helping foreign countries. He's like, they call him BDS. They're like, yeah, you're basically a radical Muslim who doesn't want Israel to have a state. It's like, no, I don't want Israel to be taken care of before me, just like Argentina or Nigeria or whoever the fuck. And my dad's like, well, we should protect Israel. Why? Why? He had no answer. That's immediate. He recited Fox News. That's it. So maybe we should wait. You're right.
Now, Busted. Well, one thing before I hand it over to him for something, I do want to agree with that. That yes, the younger generation is not falling for the bullshit, and I think the fact that they're digital natives has a lot to do with that. They have a lot of it. They understand. They're on the chans. They're using the internet to get their own information, and they're less easily manipulated by the system. So I think that's why we're seeing that. And the boomers didn't have that. The boomers had the radio and newspapers. They're fucked.
Yeah.
But it is kind of just a waiting game for sure. But you mentioned Israel, and it's so awesome to watch that transition from someone who's so pro-Israel. Then they do just a little bit of research into what goes on with that shit. Because Busted, if you don't mind, we've been friends for a long time, and you used to be pretty much pro-Israel. You talked with them as a good ally. And then I just watched the shift inside you, and now you hate. Do you mind talking about that for a little bit?
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, in my eyes, like you said, I really hadn't put a lot of time and research and everything into it. I said, okay, well, they're an ally of America. So like they're that's that's pretty much like honest to God, like as far as I fucking thought it. Like that was it. They're an ally. They're an ally in the Middle East. We take care of our allies.
Right.
And then just with like a little bit of research, I'm like, how much money are we giving these people? Like they're doing what with it? They're killing who? Like I mean, like it just over time, it turned from I really honestly give two fucking shits about Israel to like fuck Israel.
Yeah.
All together.
Exactly.
They're just doing horrible things, and we're funding the shit out of it. We're just paying for them to kill people.
Oh, exactly.
Israel's fucking horrible.
And any argument you have about migration, they call you a white supremacist that wants an ethno state. And you're like, but our greatest ally is a legitimate ethno state.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like, I mean, they whore us out as their fucking they're just like our military is theirs basically. It's like, go fucking attack these people. We need your navy over here. Send your navy. Like, we're at these people's fucking beck and call. I feel like a lot of the people that like you said, like support them, are either like me and they just don't know, or like my dad's very like, oh, we gotta protect Israel.
Right.
Israel's an ally. Israel, like, well, fuck Israel. They're doing all these horrible things. He's very religious, and I feel like sometimes maybe that is a reason why he's like, oh, well, we got to take care of Israel. That's God's country, so to speak. You know what I mean? I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's the sense I get.
No, exactly. Well, and that's go ahead, man. What's up?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, man. I do that. I jump in. No, go ahead.
No, you did. It's fine. We probably have a lag anyways.
Okay.
I was basically going to say, you're right that the unfortunate part, and this all does go back to how awful the culture and the I guess anything about the whole idea of boomers. It's not just a meme. The boomer era is what really set in stone the Israel is still God's chosen people thing when it comes to biblical theology. Now, when I first went to my seminary, I was completely baffled that they didn't refer to them as God's chosen people. And I was like, what? No, but we pray for the peace of Israel. And they're like, yeah, dude, but then there's a new covenant. So without getting into all that, Israel is certainly not the Jews of old. And they're certainly not the chosen people according to Scripture when you read it properly. They used to be, according to the Bible, but they are not now. And that's the biggest issue I've seen in my circle of boomers and churchgoers all through my life was you cannot criticize them because they are anointed by God. And then you've also got just the rest of them who are not religious, who do see every talking head from Chuck Schumer to Donald Trump saying they're our greatest ally, which is so weird that no one sees. Every party agrees on this. Why? Why is Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, why are they discredited for their thoughts against Israel by everyone? By everyone. That should scare the hell out of you.
I think it was Voltaire who said that, to learn who rules over you, find out the ones you can't criticize.
Exactly.
And that's a real thing. Like if you talk, if you're even not even, passionate, if you just point out observations, potential, flaws with the state of Israel, your job is at risk. But let me ask you this. You talked a little bit about your seminary, your education and your understanding of theology. Are you of the mind? Can you kind of tease it out for me? Are you of the mind that the Ashkenazis are not the Jews of the Old Testament, and if that's correct, how did that shift come about? I've never quite understood that really.
So the ultimate answer is I don't think anyone knows, but we can try our hardest to find out. So. The unfortunate part about my ancestry results was that I was 1% Ashkenazi, which means one of my German relatives really fucked up. But in all seriousness, the Jewish, I'm probably going to botch this date. There was an entire book that was chronicling the generations and the genealogy of the Jewish people from their tribes, their specific tribes. And it would make sense that those tribes went out into different areas over time, and they begat the Ashkenazis or the Sephardics and all these things. I believe it was the burning of the Library of Alexandria in like 300 AD. I'm not sure on the year that housed that genealogy, that chronicling of their ancestry. We don't have any records of that anymore because with that library burning down, so did the genealogy of all these Jews. I'd also like to say that even if they were still by DNA, by ancestry, by proven genealogy, completely the same Jews as the Jews of the Old Testament, it doesn't matter anymore when it comes to our opinions on them, because God, and I believe it was Paul that writes this. Paul writes the words of God in Thessalonians, exclaiming that God abhors the Jews now by their betrayal of him and their murder of Christ. Now, that does not mean every individual Jew. That means as a people group, they forsook him for thousands of years, despite his grace countless times. And much like us, if we were to do that as Christians or as people in this world, we will be forsaken in the sense of God will stop protecting us and he'll let us up to our own devices, like in Romans 1. So I don't think God hates Jews as a whole. I think that Jews as a group, not all Israel is Israel, were his chosen people, and that they forsook him, they denied him. And it's ironic how it's kind of for the same thing as the New Testament, as to why the Jews as a people group killed Jesus and had the Romans kill Jesus, was both times it was because they wanted earthly possessions. They wanted, they were very greedy. You have the entire Old Testament is filled with the Lord's provision is not enough, and they want to keep fighting or conquering or going back to their old ways, whether it's sexual promiscuity in the temples or conquering more land that they were promised to have. They went above and beyond, rejecting God for it. In the New Testament, they worship the Mashiach, the Yeshua Mashiach on horseback, or on donkey rather, as he comes in to the city. They say, this is our Hosanna, right? And then 5 minutes later, not really, but you get the point. 5 minutes later, they say, yeah, so when are you going to take over the world, give us the promised land, and give us all these riches? And he goes, no, my kingdom is not of this earth. It is of heaven. You're going to suffer if you're with me. Telling the rich guy, look, you're not going to have a place to rest your head. You are not promised anything but death and hatred on this earth. And they go, oh, we don't like you anymore. We thought you were going to conquer like earthly things and give us treasures. We don't want to follow you now. Now you're a blasphemer. And so you see the same pattern go through with the Bible throughout the Old and New Testament. I don't know if ultimately they are the same Jews or not. I'm not convinced they are biologically. Sure. But I know one thing's for sure. The Israel of today is founded in 1948-49. It is not the Israel that was founded after conquering the Philistines in the land of Canaan. That is for sure. And it's not been their land in modern time, and it's completely an abuse of power, much like the abuse of us over our freedoms in America to have established a land for Israel.
Now, with you kind of your Christian beliefs, what do you kind of make of the idea that it's sort of Christian ethics that has led to a disintegration of kind of national will, with this belief of, if someone strikes you, turn the other cheek, almost like a pathological altruism? Do you think that that's maybe a misunderstanding of Christianity, or how would you kind of answer that charge?
I'd absolutely say that that's a misunderstanding. The same way, the same way people will say, well, in regards to taxes, Jesus says that if you give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, that is the Lord's command. Yeah, but there was a big difference there. Remember, Jesus didn't like authority too much if they were evil. Jesus was very much against the Pharisees, the religious rulers of the day. This was the tip of the top, and these people controlled not only the what would be the modern day churches, right, the synagogues, but the state. They were political and theological leaders. He whipped them out of his church, out of a synagogue rather, because they were doing things that he thought were vile. He was not so much this pacifist that everyone likes to portray him or Christians as. Yes, there was a time when there was nothing Christians like Ignatius could do during persecution, except for be carried off into their death. We don't have that struggle anymore. And I think that the God of the Old Testament is the same as the New Testament and is the same as today. And he is not shy from fighting religious battles or fighting moral battles. Let me think. I think that when it comes to like my idea of acceleration, it has to be very clearly a moral battle, like a just battle, in order for us to fight this. I do believe that if it's under the guise of this so-called Christian country is taking away rights and becoming communist and becoming immoral, then yeah, there will have to be a separation of that from Christians. But it's going to come with some flack and it's going to come with some pushback. And I think that our right is to fight for that, fight against the pushback, fight against being imprisoned or being killed or being fined. It's a good question, though. I can't say with all certainty that God is completely not a pacifist, but it seems to me throughout the history of the Bible and what God does through that, he's by no means a pacifist.
No, that's interesting. I think a lot of people lose that perspective. So I mean, I guess we're kind of like sweating atheists right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because we're both not believers, so we
Yeah.
kind of see and it's because we see Christian evangelicals being used perhaps nefariously as a tool for Israel.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
maybe it's only a prop. It's a sham religion that's being used, and maybe not the real thing. That kind of deal.
If Catholics weren't so gross, I would be one in a heartbeat. But my thing is, I'm a Presbyterian because that's the farthest away I can get from being Protestant while still being Protestant. Because
Sure.
they don't seem to support Israel as much as like the Pentecostals or the Southern Baptist, all those things.
Right.
I kind of consider myself more agnostic than atheist, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's probably, I'm trying to think in my friend groups and of all the little subgroups around that are fighting for our freedoms, that are standing up against the left. I'd say that the majority of them are atheists or at least non-religious, and yet I think more and more I'm seeing people turn to this religious perspective, turn to this Christ idea because of what's going on. It's weird that even someone like you guys who have. I know that you guys have morality. I'm saying that according to the evangelical perspective, have no basis for morality, right? Now I know that's not true, but these Christians are seeing people like you in this right-leaning movement, seeing people like you who should have no reason to be conservative according to the Christian perspective, yet are saying, no, I don't want this degeneracy. I'm rejecting modernity. I don't like the idea of seeing children topless. Call me crazy. I don't like the idea of the LGBTQIA alphabet soup being completely profited off of and forced upon people that don't agree with them, and then you're called a homophobe if you don't agree with the agenda behind it. I'm really starting to see more of that, where there are non-religious people almost coming to Christ because they're kind of forced to out of that.
Well, I think that. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that. I mean, if anything's gotten me, closer to kind of believing. If anything's gotten me closer to like wanting to pick up a Bible, so to speak, it's definitely been looking into like Elsagate shit, fucking,
dude.
The Epstein thing,
Oh my
Pizzagate,
God.
shit like that. Seeing like all these like really horrible evils in the world, seeing like the evil that really can happen, that's
Absolutely.
out there, that people are fucking forcing upon people. That's the only thing that's really ever made me think like, because I mean I believe that evil exists. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe that's a kind of a weird connection, but that's definitely been the thing that's brought me closest.
I definitely see that, man. And actually, Elsagate scared the absolute hell out of me. It's one thing. I've grown up with a conspiratorial mom my whole life. My mom listened to Alex Jones before he was even popularized by.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Oh, I know. She got me hooked on conspiracies from a young age, and I remember hearing this crazy argument all the time like this, and then all of a sudden the Pizzagate wacko is fucking right. The frogs are gay wacko is
Right.
fucking spot on. And again, I don't think Alex Jones is perfect by any means, but you see the most crazy conspiracies you can muster, the interdimensional vampires that are fucking kids and drinking blood, that's all happening. Now, granted, they're not interdimensional vampires, but who the hell knows anymore?
That we know of.
Exactly. Who the
Know
hell
of.
knows? And I think that really did secure my faith when it's like you see all these weird things in the Bible, like the principality of the powers of evil. And I was reading Ephesians today, and Ephesians 1 is talking about the Lord over the air. And I'm like, that's a weird phrase, right? And then I start to think, you know what, dude? It is like metaphorically, evil is just in the air. You can smell the degeneracy when you go to big cities now. You can see all
Sure.
this propaganda forcing you into this like primal, like weird, I fuck and I consume and I die. Just this weird idea that makes me think of Sodom and Gomorrah. And if there's no further proof of God than the antithesis I'm seeing right now, I'm completely convinced. And he's not too happy if God is real. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's given me more of a reason to fight, is that I know that I'm fighting for good. If I materialize good as this God that's of the Bible, then fine. If you guys remained atheists or agnostics, but you're still fighting the same fight, fine. I'm not going to be that much of an elitist in my like punch right thing. I don't want you to have to convert to Christianity just to be on my team.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, one thing, while I may disagree with the tenets, I think that Christianity, or at least religion, is existentially necessary. Because I think Nietzsche was spot on. You know, with the death of God, you know, our people, European people, have just scattered. Because what's the point? There's no unifying factor. So even if, you know, and there's certain people in the alt-right, I guess you would say that it's you know, they're cultural Christians, that type of thing. It very much is our people. It shaped our meta narrative, and I can still appreciate that. There's something about going to like a Christmas Eve service with, you know, people in your community, and they turn the lights off and everyone has the candles. That's knowing that that's been done year after year after year, that forms this cohesive unit that, you know, is powerful and necessary. You know, it's helped us evolve. It's helped us survive. It's allowed us to survive. And I think that we definitely need something like that, because this atomized secular materialization has been a nightmare.
How brilliant is a man who can write something like Beyond Good and Evil, talk about a God that he does not believe in, maybe even more so rejects, yet understands the necessity of his metaphoric existence through the philosophies by, you know, the Judeo-Christian values as being necessary for the Western world to exist. Like, this guy goes, listen, I don't think he's real, but the idea of us killing God will destroy our Western world. And what bothers me is all these neckbeard libtard atheists think, oh yeah, you know, fuck God, yeah, he's dead. Okay, dude, well, that's not at all what he was saying, nor the perspective he was choosing to take on that.
He wasn't celebrating it.
And I even listened to that in my philosophy classes in college. Now, this was a different college, not my Christian one, but I'm hearing them celebrate this metaphorical death of God because now we have total liberation. I'm like, you have no idea how enslaved that makes you. You have no idea how much that's going to collapse the very things that you think are so bad that you actually desperately need and desperately enjoy more than the third world. That's like I had an argument the other day with my buddy. He's a good buddy because he doesn't unfriend me, but he is quite literally one step from Antifa. And he's like, well, you know, nationalism presupposes that your country's superior. I'm like, yeah, would you rather live in Somalia? Would you? Because I sure as hell wouldn't. Would you rather live in a Muslim-run country? Nah, I'm good. Because if you think that gays are mistreated here, you're going to really hate Iran.
Christianity is tame compared to Islam.
Oh, dude,
with all these things. It's
even
tame.
Westboro Baptist is like just the Alex Jones of Islam. It's like they yell a lot, but they're not going to do shit. Islam is full force, man.
You know that it's like, you know, so I that you talk about that libtard sort of neck-bearded atheist or whatever. It's like, yeah, I used to have a people, I used to have a culture and meaning and purpose and a family, but hey, it's awesome, God's dead, now I've got hentai and a YouTube channel or some stupid shit. Like, what are they replacing it with? There's no vision except just collapse and despair.
That's beautiful, man. And this one quote that I heard once where he said, somebody said, liberalism always finds a problem with something, but once they destroy it, they never rebuild it with something else.
Absolutely. It's just destruction.
Exactly, man. That's crazy.
Can you explain like the killing of God? Like getting rid of Christianity or
so
getting rid of faith or like this actual idea of getting rid of God itself, Christian God? Like, what do you mean by that?
I'd say that from at least Nietzsche's perspective, the death of God is maybe the drop into post-modernity, but I'd say that more, I guess, maybe a less like flagrant or a less philosophical answer, we'll say like that, is when you start to replace the Enlightenment with things like abstract goods and subjective truths. When you start to say, well, it's their opinion that they're right, and we really want to make a home for them. And, yeah, it goes completely against our culture and our way of living. But who's to say that we have a moral, objective standard that makes everything okay? Maybe the homosexual group is something we can incorporate, and we can listen to their perspectives and ideas. Maybe science, big science, and the capital S science, trumps the ideas of the morality of the Bible, because there's all this conflation, right? A lot of Christians alike, as well as atheists, like to think that the Bible is supposed to be a science book. It's like, no, the Bible isn't trying to tell me how old the fucking earth is or how it began. The Bible is trying to tell me how to live, not what things are. And so I think that death of God, throughout, at least from like 1800 to now, is slowly taking away the moralities brought to us by the ideas of Christianity, the ideas of this old, 4,000 plus year old God, and is starting to replace it with more carnal desires and more accepting of, I think, more accepting of animalism, almost like the idea of us just being primates. It's a weird argument. You hear a lot of fundamentals saying, if you don't believe that you're a special creation, you're going to believe that you're just a primate. I don't necessarily believe that, but I believe that our killing of God has made us act like primates now. You look at TikTok or Snapchat, it's just a bunch of gross, caked up, sexualized kids fucking and consuming. And that's what primates do.
They're all getting caught with kids, they got to normalize it.
Exactly, man. It's all throughout.
It's not weird.
You're called crazy for believing that. But yeah, that's the death of God, man. That's the death of God, rejecting immorality it's all subjective now. That India, it's okay to marry children in India because the law said it was. It's like, well, that doesn't make things right.
It's okay to do it in Saudi Arabia, but it's not okay to do it in Iran.
Exactly. And so, who's got the high ground? Well, no one does. It's all equal. It's all subjective. That's bullshit. No, it's not. You wouldn't say that if I was killing you right now, that in my homeland it's okay to kill you. You wouldn't say that if I was raping your wife right now, because in my homeland it's acceptable. You would call that migration, but you wouldn't call that morally true.
I respect your culture.
Right.
I respect your culture, sir, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
As a cisgendered, heteronormative white male.
I respect your culture, but I really don't want to die today, please.
Point of privilege, please stop raping me.
Point of privilege.
That's crazy. Well, awesome. So explain to me, because we talked about earlier that I don't really have a shtick on my podcast, except for trying to stick with like religion and theology, or religion and politics. What's y'all's main focus, right?
Well, I mean, honestly, it started out. We had a small podcast we started with, where we just kind of had conversations about just goofy shit that kind of happened to us and
colonizing
going around our town and stuff. And then it ended up kind of turning into this political thing where we started talking about a lot of stuff going on in the news and in our state. And we decided that we were going to go with that instead. So we started Decentralize Now. And when we first started, man, it was a lot of like state news, with a little bit of like, a little more national news talked about it. And over time, it's kind of turned into a much more casual thing. Just kind of us having conversations, stuff that happened throughout the week. I mean, we're both parents, so we talk a lot about that. I mean, we still talk a lot about politics, kind of the libertarian take on a lot of things, yeah, I mean, you want to take it from there, man? You're just gonna make me talk about the whole podcast.
Well, we Busted and I have been literally friends for years. I mean, since we were in high school. I can remember the day we met, and we had no idea what libertarianism was. We just knew at that point that was the Bush era, and we knew we didn't like what we were seeing. So we thought we were Democrats. We were against interventionism. We didn't want to get involved in all these other wars. We didn't see the point of it, and so we thought, well, okay, well, maybe we're Democrats. And then Obama comes along. And then he fucks up the economy, and then everything's racist. Video games are sexist. Everything's terrible. So we're like, well, we don't want this shit either. This is what we wanted. So I became very interested in finding an alternative. I looked at the Reform Party. That didn't really seem like it was a real thing anymore. Mm-hmm. I found this other party called the Libertarian Party, and it had this very cohesive system. And it works from this principle, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the non-aggression principle.
Yep.
And builds what I find to be this logically cohesive, it's sometimes challenging, but at least a logically cohesive system that makes sense and I think works for everyone. So I got very involved in the Libertarian Party in my state, and I became an officer. And Busted, I don't want to speak for you, but I think the line is true where you were kind of a libertarian and just didn't realize it. And when I started talking to him about some things, and we really agreed. So we got very excited to libertarian politics and the libertarian philosophy. Our show isn't very heady. Like, we're not a Tom Woods show. Mm-hmm. This isn't Lou Rockwell. It's just two guys who have been good friends for a long time who share these passions, and we just observe life and kind of talk about it. So it's just sort of a general life discussion, but from a broadly libertarian type of view.
That's amazing.
That was a much better explanation than I gave. That was way better than that.
Well, I liked them both because honestly, this in the short time we've known each other virtually, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, and kind of the best podcast I think I've had audio wise in a while, because there's a good balance of I'm just a dude telling you my opinion versus I'm also a politically minded person and like a father and all these things. So there is a good balance of seriousness and what's the word, joviality. There's a good balance of both. I really want to get you guys on again at some point as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find your podcast at?
Well, we usually on Mondays I post to YouTube, so you can always find it on YouTube. All the episodes are always available on YouTube.
Okay.
We're using Breaker right now, and we're also on SoundCloud, but it's honestly SoundCloud's not it's just not as our main focus, so we might be stepping away from SoundCloud, and we're looking to get on iTunes right now.
I can definitely, if I kind of just do this plug too, you definitely check out our Facebook. So if anybody types in Facebook Decentralize Now, typically that's kind of where we act as the hub. And to Bust's point, going to Breaker or to YouTube, type in Decentralize Now, and you can access all the episodes there. Fuck SoundCloud. Don't go to SoundCloud. It's a waste of time.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. I want to go ahead and say their Facebook page is really good, and they also have more likes than I do, which bothers me. It really does piss me off. I have a lot of viewers and very little team players. We're like, it was good. That's it. I'm not going to like it. Like, okay, thanks, bud. I have to do a live stream in a few minutes, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure that everyone knows where you guys are at. I'm also working off of maybe 3 hours of sleep, so I want to get if it's possible with you guys soon, maybe sometime even this week, have a long form discussion over a lot of things when it comes to politics, religion, everything, because it's really been cool to talk to you guys.
Oh, likewise, man.
Yeah.
If you guys want to check them out, Decentralize Now is available on the shitty SoundCloud, but it's also available on YouTube. And what was the thing you guys used? It's not Last
Breaker.
Breaker. Yeah, I was trying to find your.
You can go to decentralizenowpodcast.com, and it has links to all the outlets.
And you guys already have a website. Okay, sweet. I actually, if we can talk soon, I think I have an idea of how to get you guys on iTunes and Spotify even quicker.
Oh, hell yeah.
If you have your own website, that's even a better step, because usually SoundCloud is like the easiest way to go. But I think that I know a trick for the website to help you get in, like, almost, except for paying for the website, I think it's pretty much free to use that as like an RSS feed to get onto iTunes and Spotify.
Oh, dude, we'd love to do that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be dope. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys give them a like. If you guys are listening right now, check out patreon.com/Blackballed podcast. It is there where you get to see the video side of all my audio exclusive episodes. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, unfortunately SoundCloud as well. I am stricken with that too. Anywhere podcasts are found, you can find me. I have just been labeled as one of the top 25 fascist podcasts according to last.fm. So that's awesome. A pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm very proud, very proud. My
Congratulations,
future,
sir.
I hear my future swirling down the toilet as we speak. Guys, Chemtrail, Busted, it's been awesome, dude. I really want to have you guys on again at some point soon.
Yeah,
thanks so much, man.
Sweet. All right, you guys be good, all right?
Have a good one.
Take it easy.
Thank you, guys.